it's questions, right? Yeah, questions, discussion points, observations. I know we had one last night, a cheeky extra one, but that's okay. Feel free to continue on with your forms and...
Any question?
Yes, sir.
I think it might be overextending on my, not necessarily the punches, but these portions.
Recording in progress.
Overextending on the punches,
You know what
you
I
say?
Yeah. So, well, not the punches necessarily, but the beginning piece before you get...
Oh, the Tan Tao? Yeah, so it comes to about, we say like, 3/4 extension. So you can think of the elbow being about a fist from the body. That's a good kind of demarcation. You definitely don't want to go to a point where your shoulder girdle's coming forward, because in Sifu Tao we're training the limbs to stay connected to the body. I mean, structurally it's easier when the torso isn't twisting. So it's easier to maintain that sense of connection to the center and the center of mass. With the arms, we see how my torso doesn't really move much, but my arms do. However, once you have developed that unification through centering and sensing, so your structure is unified and your body mass is working as a unit, then it's okay to start, moving, bending, twisting. Like many of the further forms, you start actually twisting and bending on purpose because you've already cultivated that structural unification. So, 3/4 extension is a good idea, and something to keep in mind is that your shoulder shouldn't be bringing the arm further away from the body. It should stay rested, as though the shoulder joint's kind of just spinning in the joint. Cool.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah, I think I might have been sensing, trying to avoid that infighting,
Oh, you mean coming to with your elbow into the center? Is that what you mean?
Well, previous training has taught me, while was all infighting, some distance is a good thing. So I think I've been just subconsciously overextending.
Okay, to get some extra
creating
range.
Distance as opposed.
Gotcha. Yeah,
But thank you. Your visual was great with the arm by the elbow. That helped me a lot. I was going too fast with my student time.
Yeah, look, even the way I practice with you guys, I'm kind of trying to keep it at a pace which isn't too boring for the newer guys and isn't too quick for the guys who've been training for a while. But ultimately, in your mind, and when you practice, you want to practice Sifu Tao as slowly as humanly possible. So you can really think, okay, I've got a 3-hour block in my calendar. I think I can do the form once. That's kind of the mindset you want to have. Like, you just go and practice nice and slow, because that will really get you a depth of experience, sensation, observation to really dissolve the deeper layers of tension in the system and start to move from spirit, mind, energy to body. That's the objective, is that we align with spirit and allow that to be the guide. So my master used to say, the Nim Tao, the mind, leads the chi, the energy, leads the body, right? But the thing about Nim Tao, the mind must be focused on a higher frequency of consciousness, meaning it must be aligned with spirit, because that determines the quality of the movement. Because for years I was observing people that were quite angry and stressed, including myself at times, filled with desire, and our skill not improving. So the important factor is the quality of consciousness. Cool. What other questions, discussion points, observations do we have, team? Everyone's too busy practicing forms.
Just like an observation from today's Sifu Tao. As we were going faster, I felt like, this is like a cool challenge for me to practice the state and to practice like setting things forward. And like, I don't know, I thought it was like a cool exercise, because we've been doing you know, recently I felt like we've been going like extra, like taking our time, which is great. And then so I felt like, you know, to try it, change it up every now and then. I was like, oh, okay, well, let's do that.
Yeah, 100%. We practice it. It's a good observation because we practice it really slowly so that we can bring it into really fast. Because if you have that acute awareness, that deep sense of connection and observation as you move slowly, meaning, okay, let's think of it like this. As we do a slow Tan Sao, right? Let's just say there's excessive activity in the shoulder, right? If I want to release that activity, pardon me, pardon me. So let's say I want to release tension in my shoulder. I'm doing Tan Sao like this. There's no time for me to connect with the physical body and release it. Whereas if I'm moving as slowly as possible, I can put my focus in my center, so Earth Tao Crown, get the rise in frequency via intention, so get a good feeling quality, consciously sense and sink through that space as I slowly move. And what you'll notice is that as you do that, that fuels the movement. So as you stay centered in your intention, sensing and sinking, it starts to be, that becomes like the fuel, that becomes the driver, because you're coming from intent, energy, body, you know? So you get it in the slow and then you play with it in the fast, meaning the way you go about life is in alignment with spirit. So it's like, it's almost as though you're just this conduit for consciousness. You know, actually that's what it is. But, you know, we like to claim authority.
So I thought that was kind of funny that you just said that I, conduit. That's a funny, interesting concept.
What's that? Yeah, I feel you, brother.
Especially just.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the context. I understand where you're coming from. So look, you know, yeah. Often when someone says I, so you're taking it balls deep. Great. So generally speaking, suggests a separation between you and me. So I am talking to you, right? So that's where the problem of language becomes, because then it leads to a sense of separation by the way you classify things. But if you take it to its broader concept, to I is everything. So there's a book that Hawkins wrote called I, like it's literally just called I, and it talks about the infinite I, or the absolute infinite beingness, which is all. So that is the ultimate I, or the I am. So I mean, it really depends on the context of, that's why you picked it up, like where I was kind of dancing between the two words, I, we.
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting wordplay, especially if, well, I don't know. Long story short, I had an interesting journey today, and kind of accepted that, well, I could die today, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, but to me, I guess. That's actually, no, it doesn't matter. Because if it happens, it is.
That's right.
And then you just let it flow and move on.
That's right. Not much you can do about it.
There's no baggage there, so I don't know if we get that. Next level thinking. I think I'm just gonna stop talking for right now.
That's all right. It's good to ponder these things, and you don't have to stop talking. It's a very safe place here. Everyone's used to these ideas.
Love it. Ain't alone.
Hey.
I think the overextension has been contributing to my off balance in my stance. I've been struggling. I was so focused on my stance for so long. I think it's the overextension that's really what the issue is for me. So thank you for that.
That's all right. You know, ultimately it shouldn't matter too much. If your overextension is pulling you out of balance, then yes. But ultimately you should be able to have your hand as far as possible and still feel balanced, ultimately. But if it is contributing to you pulling yourself out, which actually does happen, meaning when you think of overextension in relationship to actual sparring, right? Let's say I've made contact with a person and then I go to overextend. I either lean on them or I let my balance fall forward, right? Meaning the weight would come to the front of the balls of the feet and toes, which means I can be pulled and taken control of easily. So it does happen. So it's not impossible. However, when you're practicing on your own, you should always feel the sense of balance, a sense of stability, regardless of how far the limb goes from the body or how much you move the shoulder girdle away. So even as you see the guys doing their elbows, you should still feel a sense of balance, not that you're overextending and collapsing. That's primary. Like in every single martial art, I think pretty much in every sport, really, balance is a very primary principle, right, to maintain balance. Now, the difference is that the way we approach it is through centering in our intention. So you're consciously aware, earth, towel to crown, you're sensing that space, you're feeling it with a good feeling quality, and that becomes how you balance. Your focus on the center is how you balance. Now, if you want to go deeper into that, James, I'd suggest one leg training. Stand on one leg as you do the form, or just stand on one leg. Just make sure there's no tension in the hips as you do it. So just lift your foot off the floor a little bit. One foot off the floor, boom, and that's really going to train your balance, because you have to be balanced, otherwise you're going to fall, right? So, yeah.
Love it. Makes sense. Thank you, Sifu.
Pleasure, sir. What other hobbies or questions do we have?
So we've talked about this before, kind of when I first started, like a year ago now. Which is cool. I have a shoulder reconstruction, and so because of that, it's naturally, when I relax, it's slightly lifted. I work pretty hard to make it seem like it's not. So the idea of Gam Sao or even Bong Sao, when I'm dropping the shoulder, to drop the shoulder actually creates more tension than what would your advice be on where I should leave it or structurally?
Yeah, so no matter, I understand.
I drop it.
Yeah.
But it takes energy to do it.
So you just let it sink or drop to its natural position, meaning however your body type or shape. Because I had a similar concern, because when I was training at my master's, like I noticed that one side of my body felt different to the other, and I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh, this one's slightly higher, this one sticks out further. And in my mind, I wanted them to kind of feel symmetrical. Like, I don't know why, I just wanted them to. So I asked my teacher, I was just like, hey, what's the deal here? I feel like I'm imbalanced. And it was a similar question to yours, like when I'm doing these movements, I feel more tense. How do I wasn't going deeper into the energy, I was talking more about just tension. And he said, Mganula. And I was like, what do you mean it doesn't matter? Because it's what Mganula means. And he said, you know, your body can be in any position, any structure. No one's body is symmetrically perfect. You just sink naturally and move from there. So if, for example, you do have, like if I exaggerate that, you just sink it naturally as best as possible and move from there, because you have to work with your own body structure. I kind of get it where you're coming from, because, you know, as a Kung Fu addict, you know, we want everything to be perfect in every way, shape and form. But the way we approach it is that you think of, okay, I just sink naturally through the whole area. Wherever it ends, it ends. If I end up like this, that's fine. Because if you take that even further into like combat, you never know what position, shape your body is going to be in, like depending on the number of attackers, environment, weaponry, so on and so forth. So we need to be able to sink and dissolve regardless of physical positioning, which is essentially what Wing Chun's, the deeper forms of Wing Chun is trying to do. It's trying to get you into state regardless of position. So in summary, just sink naturally and let it move from where it falls naturally. So you don't have to try to think about an actual position, so to speak. Does that make sense?
It does, but to elaborate a little bit, so my natural position without the surgery, due to my skeletal structure, would be different than what it is with the surgery. They've tensioned everything. So basically what I'm saying is I can drop and I can do that naturally, but it feels more structurally sound to actually push it to where it needs to go, or make it allow it to like.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I understand. So the problem is the word natural. So what I mean is, what your body does now post surgery is what I meant by natural. So where it falls now naturally post surgery, post shoulder event. So that would be the natural position now, not the natural position before. That's what I meant. So wherever it falls post-surgery, that will what we'll call natural. Now, yes, it may feel more structurally correct if you kind of get it into the right position, but eventually structure is everywhere. So it doesn't really matter. So eventually you can have this, like you can bring it up like this and you can still have structure. You know, it doesn't matter, right? Because it's about alignment of awareness.
Yeah, rather than reverting back to the
physical
old structure.
That's right.
Create a new structure.
That's right. You know, and the thing is that you got to remember, you got muscular, structural, and then state power. So you got the muscular system, the skeletal and structural system, and then the energetic system. The structural system is kind of the gateway, meaning, you know, you start off just by getting the structure in an alignment. Like, okay, my spine supports my shoulder supports my humerus, my forearm, my hand. So the structure supports each other to the floor. And that's a good way to start developing a forceless style of power because the bones are supporting each other. But ultimately, you want the mind to support each cell in space. So you infuse the spirit into the whole space, so everything's supported within itself. That's what the floating center feels like. It's no longer, I need the center of mass behind the arm to support it. Everything's supporting itself. And that's the state level where you get that sense of expansion or danhoi, where everything's supporting itself in space, as opposed to structurally supported by the bone behind it. So it's a good stepping stone. So you start to go, okay, great. And it's quite powerful to use good structure, but ultimately you want to go beyond that. Ultimately, we want to go to the point where we're relying on the mind and the energy body in unison to cultivate power. Does that make sense, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just hoping that I could all them extra muscles that I built up for like 9 years before I got my surgery to hold my shoulder in place to make it like a super arm. It's all right. I'll just use the state instead. It's all good. Thanks, Sifu.
Yeah, it's a very interesting transition from structure to state. Structure is very powerful and we should all train it. You know, that's why we do train it. You know, like even when you're doing, you know, your sensing work, you are sensing the structure, meaning when someone touches your body, they should be touching the whole structure. They shouldn't just be touching your arm, for example. That means they're dealing with your whole. And when we say structure, we mean skeleton, simple. Your skeletal system unified via centering, the spine is the center, and sensing. So centering and sensing is what activates the structure, right? A lot of time people say in Wing Chun, oh, use your structure, and they just mean like the shape of the guard or the position of the body. But really the structure is the skeleton, simple. You sense your skeleton by centering and sensing. That brings the activation of the structure. But then further, you want to dissolve the awareness on the physical structure and enter into every cell, every atom, every space. So you're unifying to the etheric body. Then the structure, it's like an energetic structure, which is reboundy and bouncy and expansive and 10 to 100 times more powerful.
Absolutely. I think a good thing to highlight too is in the skeletal system are fascia and tissue that are part of that. You know, it's not just the bones. So a lot of us, you know, bones are connected by those things that create the structure as well. They're a little more flaccid, a little more loose, but they still are part of that and a big part of how we are all different. You know, some of us are inwardly rotated, some of us are outwardly rotated. Like you said, we're all asymmetrical or non-symmetrical, you know, and to honor those differences and attribute those to the state, you know, but also, fall back on the structure.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of internal arts. So there's a lot, especially lately, a lot of people talking about fascia and stuff like that. And you know, I've been aware of it for a while. Like I read a book called The Anatomy Chains where they spoke about it. I found it very interesting. And some practitioners were saying that the fascia is like the physical manifestation of the energetic lines in the body. And I was like, well, that's cool. Oh, there you go, Anatomy Chains, that book, yeah.
Yeah.
You steal my book?
Yeah.
Give me my book back. Is that literally on your table? What the hell? What the hell? What a coincidence.
I ran across a Tai Chi instructor, a little small lady that was talking about the fascia. And she took a big guy, and it interests me as well. And I've asked TJ about it a long time ago and then forgot it. But she could apply a little power on a very soft, it's not squeezing, but it's almost like, okay, putting your fingers together and going up your wrist to where it gets tight. From the reading I've done, the fascia is a membrane between your skin and your muscles. And you can actually attack the fascia or send energy through the fascia to uproot someone very easily. But she weighed maybe a $110, and this guy was probably in the 220 range, leaning into her, and she just kind of sent her to sink, sense, say, attack the elbows, attack the knees, and uprooted him. It was enough to get my interest.
Yeah, it's fascinating. There are a lot of teachers out there doing stuff like that, like they attack fascia and stuff like that. I mean, I think, it seems like with the way we practice, you attack everything. Meaning, when you connect to their center, it attacks their balance, their structure, their fascia, their mind. It even destabilizes the mind, because if your power, it seems like this, like you have your power plane on and you put it on someone, it's like all of a sudden it destabilizes their balance, but also it stops them from focusing well. Like it makes it easy to kind of defocus them, so to speak. So it's as though your mind cuts through their mind, but I have no way to scientifically prove that. It's just an observation. When you do touch hands and people are just like, oh fuck. Well, I suppose being off balance straight away gets your focus on rebalancing. So that's just an obvious example, but I don't know about the other side.
And depending on the mind, it could go directly to or toward a panic because they're off balance. So, once you get into, I remember this from years ago, once you can get that hit first, hit hard, and don't stop till it's over. That's the way we were taught as far as self-defense.
No, that's right. That's the Wing Chun way.
Yeah. Either walk
Crush
away,
them.
to engage, hit first, hit hard, take no prisoners, or as they say in Cobra Kai, take no mercy. Yeah,
well, that's right. I mean, in a real self-defense situation, that if someone's really trying to hurt you and attack you, there'll be no communication, and they're just trying to, incapacitate or injure you. So you have to do that. And it's like, it's the game you're playing. It's the rules of that game, or the no rules of that game. But you're right. Walk away if you can.
And I've yet to see TJ's, and this is rumor in my mind, but I'd always heard that Bruce Lee's philosophy on fighting is, if a man harms you, you hit him harder. If he hits you hard, you break a bone. If he breaks a bone, you take his life. Just one up. That makes sense to a point, but that doesn't sound like Bruce Lee, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my brother, who was also Guamanian, half Filipino, half Guamanian, we did a Kali and Eskrima together and trained. And his thing was very similar to that. He's like, in a fight, the only cheap shot is the first shot. After that, you do anything you can to win. Just like, yeah. So.
Thing is that
that's why the cane, getting in my older years.
Yeah, you'll have a weapon with you all the time.
Hey, how you doing, young man?
Pow! In cane form, I know cane form. First shot, right in the tummy.
Yep.
Then lift, crack.
The more you train, the more you'll be sensitive to situations, and you just won't go near them. Like, when I was younger, if I was a situation, I'd go towards it because I'd want to get into the fight. I was like, ooh. I used to go towards violence when I was younger, but now, you can. So I drove into a car park. I was, just going to do some shopping at a mall, and then there was just a fight about to kick off, and you could hear first I felt it, and then I could hear them. The voices escalating and stuff. So I just walked around. I went around and went nowhere near them. Yes, I mean, the thing is that oftentimes people that are unconscious of themselves, either they're just looking at their phone or they've got earphones and they don't notice, so they walk into danger. You know, a simple thing, if you want to avoid, you know, getting mugged, is just don't, you know, sit with your headphones on and your face on the phone while you're sitting in the bus stop. I've seen tons of videos of like, you know, a girl or a guy just sitting there kind of, they can't hear anything and they can't see anything because they're like this with the headphones, then they get beaten up and mugged. It's like, you know, the self-defense 101, be aware of your environment, you know. So if it's late at night, don't sit there looking at your phone, listen to Dr. Dre. Like, have your eyes up and aware of the environment.
I've also heard of this tip: you get just a piece of crap cell phone as a decoy and an empty wallet with a bunch of crap in it, and put those visible, but tuck your real wallet down in your sock or something. That way, when they come up, give you your phone and your wallet, you're giving them junk.
Yeah.
You're giving them.
Take my junk wallet.
Yeah.
So would you guys prefer go-karting or zombie tag?
No, we want
It
to
all sound great.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is it like Walking Dead zombies, or is it 28 Days Later zombies?
I don't know. I've never watched. I haven't watched many zombie movies, so I don't know the difference.
28 Days Later are like zombies on meth.
Ah.
Like they're super fast. They can catch you really easy. And like Walking Dead zombies, just kind of like you can walk away from
Leave it
them.
alone. Yeah.
I think I prefer Walking Dead zombies then.
The
they're easier to fight. Alrighty, do we have any final questions before we finish up for today's session?
I've got one on the meditation.
Yes, sir.
Is it possible to do too much meditation practice?
I've never reached a point where I've done too much myself. And I do it like, I've done whole days of meditation, to be honest, like where I've just meditated for like, 5 to 6 to 10 hours. Like, so maybe, but I haven't heard of it hurting anyone. Like, why is that? What brought that kind of to your?
No, it was just a case of working through my knee injury, thinking, what can I do? Can I just be doing the meditation training and just whilst I'm in between classes, I've got obviously the access to the previous state training lessons. So I was just thinking, it's possible to kind of get addicted to it, I think.
Yeah.
And I've got work to do, but it's nice to have a little break and get into that nice feeling.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
So just querying if too much is not good for you and you've got to find balance of it.
No. In my opinion, do it as much as you can, in my opinion, because the objective from meditation is to make it contemplation. So meditation is like the training ground, like you're learning. You've got your teacher next to you learning how to drive as an L plater. We use L plates here in Australia. I don't know what they use in UK, but then so then you get your license, right? And then you drive on your own. So it's similar. You want to practice your meditation, guided, listening, following, getting into the vibe of it. But then eventually it becomes contemplation, a way of being. So you are the meditation. So I don't think you can practice too much, in my opinion. I think practice as much as you can. But if the only caveat would be if you're doing it standing all the time and it's giving you pain and making your knee worse, then probably sit down or change position. So I wouldn't put myself through physical pain to meditate. I mean, at least in our system, some people do that willpower meditation, but I don't really. We go the forceless method, not the forceful. Good question, sir.
My father was a counselor. So basically his concept and things that he said is there's nothing the body can't turn into a drug. So if it starts to affect yourself negatively or affect others around you negatively, then, take a good look at yourself at that point. But otherwise, go at it. know, I've seen people get addicted to pranayama and breathing. I've seen people get addicted to yoga. I've seen people get addicted, you know, we might be addicted to Kung Fu, but I don't see it hurting myself yet or other people. So I think that's the key point there.
Yeah. If you start robbing houses after your meditation and killing people, then maybe it's a good idea to slow down. All right, team, thank you very much for today. 1 second, let's make sure I think I did the photo. I'll just do it again just to be sure. Much love, and I'll see you on the next session. Peace. Thanks for joining us on our live. I do have, I can take maybe 1 or 2 questions. I see you've got some here. All right. What about chi transmission, like internal Tai Chi, like Adam Misner? I've touched hands with Tai Chi guys. I wouldn't mind touching hands with Misner and those guys. The guys I've touched hands with, the Wing Chun style overrides it. That's what I've just observed. Same as my master as well. Because we don't draw in and give back, we just rebound. So seems to override it. But they look pretty good. Thanks for joining us here on this live. All right, if you do have any questions, chuck them in. I don't know if you remember me. I'm Mohammed from the community on school. We chatted a bit. I told you about my topic. Hey, awesome. Welcome. Welcome, Mohammed. Have you been training? So, yeah, Mohammed's from my online community, school. It's One Tao Family on school, and the links on my YouTube page as well. Thanks for joining on the live. Alrighty, so jump into the link on my page and check out our communities. You can train for free. There's a free community and a paid community. The guys that I just did the session with there are obviously in my paid community. They're the ones who I train with every day. They get my step-by-step curriculum. They get live corrections and feedback as well. So if you'd like to jump in, check out the link on my page somewhere. And thanks for attending, and I'll see you in our next live. Peace.